Duet Night Abyss's launch was a hot mess, plagued with countless bugs, broken systems, and even errors that completely prevented you from playing the game. It was like a train crash you couldn't take your eyes off of. And yet, there was something about it that just kept me coming back. And before long, I had racked up hundreds of hours of playtime. I couldn't help but recommend it to my friends, but it always came with a caveat. The game is great, as long as you can ignore some minor and, major issues. But that was then, and this is now. And DNA has just released its first major patch, version 1.1, with many updates to fix what was broken before. But will it be enough to revitalize Duet Night Abyss in today's super competitive market? Thanks to Duet Night Abyss for sponsoring this video, even though I told them I will not be pulling any punches. At this point, I think they can handle it. Duet Night Abyss launched on October 28, 2025, and it looked like this. While it's not the worst looking anime game in 2025, it can't compare with the current competition of similar games. My biggest pet peeve has always been these giant dark outlines on the models, which especially stand out on our white-garbed protagonist. Outlines themselves are fine, but something about these just looked so unrefined. It wasn't just the visuals that suffered though. The game was riddled with bugs. So many bugs. The complaints came pouring in, as did the hotfixes. Oftentimes, there were multiple updates in the same day. But the launch wasn't all bad. When the game was working properly, the combat was fun, the gameplay loop satisfying, and the story truly impressive. The plot, dialogue, and superb voice acting came together into something that wasn't just good for a free game, but good for any storytelling medium. Seriously, even if you don't pick up the game, please watch the story on YouTube or something. Anytime I had to put DNA down, I couldn't wait to pick it up to find out what was going to happen next. I even started reading the various lore fragments scattered about, hungry to unravel the mysteries of this strange and hostile world. So what happened? Clearly, the game had all the right pieces, so why does Duet Night Abyss seem so unfinished? Well, because it is unfinished, due to a last-minute change in the development plan that changed everything. Between the second beta and global launch, the devs announced that Duet Night Abyss was no longer going to be a gacha game as previously planned. Instead, they were completely reworking it so every single character, weapon, and equipment could be earned for free with no stamina-based time gating. The only gambling mechanic that remained is for a handful of skins and cosmetics that can be entirely ignored for the purpose of progression. Even the cosmetic gacha, like many of these free-to-play systems, feels more like a relic of the past that couldn't be reworked in time for the game's launch. However, while tossing out most of the gacha and predatory FOMO systems is a benefit to players, it's also a huge monetary loss for the developers. And this is why I believe the devs actually care about their game as a form of art. If it was just a cash grab, they would have gone full steam ahead on the gacha and drained as much money from players as they could before shutting the game down. Unfortunately, changing the monetization system so close to launch led to huge ramifications that rippled across the entire game, as they had to rework the entire backbone of the reward system, not to mention create new cosmetics, update the graphics, and finish the 1.0 story. You can imagine how much dev time this took to implement, and clearly it took precedence over thorough bug testing, character rebalancing, and mobile performance. But that was then. This is now. And after over hundreds of bug fixes and another full overhaul of the graphics, version 1.1 looks like a completely different game. Literally. Just look at these side-by-side comparisons. Most notably, the cheap-looking black outlines on the characters have been replaced with a more subtle, soft stroke that matches the color of the material it's next to. Plus, the lighting and textures are much better. Check out the leather grain on Fox Hunter's gloves. One of the biggest criticisms of DNA at launch was how ugly it looked due to the dated materials and lighting, but with some tweaks, 1.1 has a clear visual identity that can compete with the other anime games on the market. And nothing quite captures how far DNA has come like Fushu. I originally tried her out in the beta test, and since then her model has come such a long way. But she's not just for show, she also has crazy utility. She can heal, grant shields, raise ally skill damage, apply some defense ignore, and perhaps most importantly, she can restore your character's most valuable resource, sanity. Fushu is the queen of support, making her a must-pull. Wait, this isn't a gacha game. She's free, like everyone else. Fushu is permanently obtainable starting in the first half of 1.1, while Kajou arrives in the second half, but I'll save Kajou info for another video. But if Fushu's regal look isn't really your speed, there's always her beach outfit. To be honest, I usually don't really care about swimsuit skins, but wow. Does Fushu look like a smoke show in this thing? The watery horns and tail are such a fun touch, and I cannot get over this shimmery overlay on the fabric. Best of all, it has so many dye channels. Even the animated overlay can be dyed. Fushu's bikini skin and accessories are gacha only, meaning they will cost you real money. But don't worry, free-to-play players, you can still look fashionable in the new Sipao outfit. You can get one free as a login bonus and put it on any character, male or female, old or new. And luckily, it removes any character's hat, unlike the Christmas outfit. The Sipao is the perfect thing to wear in Mistwarf, the new zone introduced in version 1.1. Not only is it way bigger than Ice Lake, but thanks to the huge graphic update and new day-night cycle, it makes me feel like I wandered into a completely different game. Seriously, the character models get such a huge upgrade just from the lighting in this zone, which makes me hope Ice Lake's lighting will be further adjusted too. Plus, the entirety of Mistwarf is a co-op area, so you'll be able to see and interact with players all over. Perfect for trying out the new interactive emotes. Of course, since I'm testing this out on a pre-release build, my Mistwarf is tragically empty. But if that's how you'd prefer it to be, you can disable the co-op feature in the settings. For the first time, you might even be able to appreciate DNA on mobile. At launch, the mobile experience was a blurry, laggy disaster, and the devs even admitted this themselves when they showed how much 1.1 has improved the mobile version during their recent livestream. I'll need to test it out for myself before I can confirm any of this though. Tell me in the comments if you've noticed any improvements. Because I'm insane, I actually read this entire list of 100 plus bug fixes for 1.1. So with confidence, I can tell you some of my favorite fixes are the following. Genimons can actually be captured if you join a commission midway through. Monster spawn points and commissions have been adjusted so they stop getting stuck on objects. Ticket stub rewards from floor 13 to 32 of Immortal Repertoire have been doubled. And movement demon wedges now work in Mystic Maze. But there is so much more. Crashes, UI issues, you name it. Most of the worst bugs got swatted in 1.1. However, given the sheer volume of changes, it's no surprise that not every issue was able to be fixed in time for the update, and there are still some big ones. If you asked any controller player what their experience of DNA was like, they'd probably say, bad. In fact, that's exactly why I play with mouse and keyboard despite preferring controller. They fixed many of the especially bad bugs, which you can see on screen, but not all of them. For example, that awful bug where using a DualShock 4 will cause menus to freak out and constantly scroll up. Yeah, that's still here in the 1.1 beta. I'll be sticking with my 8BitDo Ultimate 2 controller for now. Another issue I have is that the Genimon meta is unbalanced due to Bro Boxy being the only one that gives you increased loot drop rate and pickup, so it's the only one I use. Warframe once had this issue until it gave this ability to all of its Genimon equivalents, which is exactly what DNA needs to do to end Boxy's reign and make the others more viable. I should also mention that the farmable Bro Boxys coming in the second half of 1.1 are actually just avatars, not real Genimon. And if you thought the movement in the game could use some work, well, not much has changed in 1.1. Large-scale issues like this will definitely need more than a single patch to adjust. And lastly, my biggest wishlist item has not been addressed just yet. Characters like Sybil and Hellfire are still woefully underpowered. Rebecca did manage to get some bug fixes sorted, but most characters are as they were. Again, this is a large-scale change that needs more time in the kitchen, so leave feedback in-game if you want this to happen. I know I will. Has Duet Night Abyss improved enough to earn a second chance? Tentatively, yes. I feel like I've been holding my breath for months and I can finally breathe again as DNA has made it over the colossal hurdle from the has potential stage into the good game stage. The visuals have been fixed, most of the jank is gone, and I hope the devs can stop working overtime for a while. Of course, there are still remaining bugs and balancing issues, but considering how responsive and transparent the devs have been so far, I'm confident that DNA will get better and better. And thank goodness, because I'm obsessed with this game and its storytelling, and I swear to God I'm not saying this because this is sponsored, it's really my favorite new gacha of the year. I've only scratched the surface of what's changed in this patch, so you'll need to watch this video to find out everything that DNA's 1.1 livestream revealed.